Hello, 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 everybody. Quad witching over. How is everyone doing? Happy Friday afternoon. Thank you for being here. By the way, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing, ring that bell, and hitting the like button. All right. Out of the way. By the way, reminder again, will not be live on Sunday afternoon. We'll have to see if I can jump on in the evening a bit or anything, or if there'll be something pre-recorded, or if it'll just be Monday morning. Do not know yet, but it will definitely not be 3 p.m. Central on Sunday. Just making everybody aware. Good afternoon, Patrick. Hey, George, you still think there'll be a Santa rally? I'll be watching for a potential one once the cycles get to the bottom. The probability still favors it, so you got to go with the probabilities, but it is no guarantee. And that doesn't mean we go to even new highs. It could just be a bounce for a week and a half, and then maybe into a little January effect, beginning of January. But as I showed you the charts yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, that were done by somebody else. That with the probabilities, which I think they're spot on from everything I've seen and done. There is no guarantee, but if it doesn't happen and goes the other way, you better be prepared. So that's the point of probabilities. You align yourself with probabilities. And I'm not focused on it, though, until we get the cycles to the bottom to help fine tune it. And just because they're probabilities, it's just like you have a potential double bottom or something. But unless it confirms and then triggers, it doesn't matter that it's a potential. So we have the potential for a Santa rally at some point. Traditionally, now the research that was shared was for the last 2 weeks. Traditionally, it is the time the real Santa rally focus is between after Christmas and New Year's. Before New Year's. And then you get what's called the January effect, which is the bullish bias at the beginning of January, right after the January 1st holiday. But is there anything guaranteed? No. Hello, Options 22. If Friday, is that like Fish Friday, Stafford? What a day from Sashi. How SPX is 3862 and SPY 382? What do you mean? How can that happen? There's roughly when I did back envelope, there's roughly a 40 points. So you shave 40 points off the S&P. I could do the exact calcs, and you're 3822, and that would be 3822. So how can that happen? Very easily. What are we going to do Sunday afternoon now? I don't know. You're going to have an enjoyable Sunday afternoon without me. I can't rearrange something in my schedule. So, all right, just to recap, thank you everybody for being here. We had the S&P PMI flash numbers, everything in contraction, the manufacturing missing to the downside, and services missing to the downside, and the composite lower than previous. Yes, we are heading into a recession. Yes, just another indicator of it. The exact timing really doesn't matter because we have to trade the markets. And at some point during the recession, we will find a bottom. Have we bottomed yet? Probabilities don't say so. Nowhere close. All right. Your mega caps sort of beat up today. Tesla really beat up. Oil contracting. There was not a lot of green besides Meta. Again, I was looking at the charts. There'll be another rollover play in Meta at some point. You see here sectors on the day. Everything was red. Communication services holding up the best. On the week, the only thing that was up was energy by only 60 basis points versus consumer cyclical down 359 basis points. Oh, look at this monthly relative performance so far. The only things that are really up are utilities and healthcare. Woo! 75% for the 70 or for the 25 basis point on Feb first still. Fear and greed back in fear mode. All right. So, where do we sit? Where do we sit? Where do we sit? December 2007, that was the beginning of the housing collapse. October 31st, did we have a Santa Claus rally that year? I'd have to go back and look. But you're trying to make too many specifics if you're looking at 1 year based on what you think this is going to do. So that's why also I would not just recommend buying. Here's what I'm watching. Daily cycles still heading down. Should bottom sometime next week. Weekly cycles still heading down. Could bottom next week or early the week after. Then I will watch for a potential buy setup. It's really that straightforward. Now, what tips me into really watching for the retest of the low area back from mid-October is if we get the daily close below this 37.55 area. Because then the probability shift for a retest. That does not have to be a retest before the end of the year. For Monday, I'm focusing on a continued breakdown below today's lows would be in that major area I covered today, about 38.36 to 38.45 area. That is, and I would not be surprised to at least see a bounce in there. At least see a little bounce. Why? You have a next breakout level, you have the 50% retracement key support, and you have a harmonic projection. The only thing bullish today is that little flagging pattern, then we got the sell-off with pretty aggressive momentum bar, was this little mini double at the end of the day, which was just using to signal that the major decline was over. That was about it. All right. So keep in mind, this 3900 to 3911 is now major resistance. You see it even on the 4-hour rotation zone declining there. So that's what I'm going to be focused on any bounce. And it doesn't even have to bounce that much. Also, every key moving average we follow is now overhead again. So this again, any rallies would be back potentially to the separation of the daily rotation zone. NASDAQ pretty much stopping at our harmonic area. Next key area for me is this 11,200 to about 11,180. It closed below 11,180, focusing on much lower prices. Cycles in the same position. Don't need to repeat myself with that. The revisit zone on any rally, I'm roughly watching about 11,400 to 11,460 initially if we do get a bounce. That's about it there. The Dow coming back down. We had the key support level, this 32,895 area, 32.9, bouncing on it. Interesting enough, the Dow, still 15 minutes to go. Looks like it might attempt to close back above the 50. I'm going to be watching next week for a return to the 200 with cycles still heading down on the daily and the weekly. Where did that disappear? Hey, how do you get this one? I got a question. Does somebody know real quick on these two how to get back the sidebar? The little sidebar like that's on here. Can somebody put that in the chat? I just blanked out on it, and there's no little, like the little symbol I normally use, like this one, is missing. See how it's here? This one is no. Could somebody tell me how to get this? Somebody knows off the top of their head, just so I don't have to poke around. I forgot how to do it. Russell, key line in the sand is 1745 roughly. It's in a little potential reversal zone, still closing up above these key lows for to hopefully. I mean, well, for the bulls it would be hopefully with 15 minutes to go. Any bounce, I'm focusing back to about 1788. The DAX sitting right at that 50. So we break down next week. I'm focusing on a return to the 200. Nas Industry, is that, let's see, where would that, it's not there. You put up this. This is just to change my leg, but that's not going to do it. Huh. Where is that? I don't want to maximize. I don't want to collapse. Oh, where is it? Sorry about that. I am just, what am I missing? Is it here? No, that's maximize panel. Urgh. I hate when something goes awry and I can't figure it out. The notes, what am I missing? Please help me. The notes still in this horrible mess, so I'm pretty much ignoring it until we either get a breakdown or breakout or breakdown. Dollar index basing near yesterday's highs, so I am watching for a continued run up to, right now, I'm bumping this down just a bit, to about 105.27. Top of the rotation zone. Now we could get a little run up in the dollar coming out of this major oversold condition, and that will continue to put some downwards pressure on the futures, the financial futures. VIX will repeat at that next week now that OPEX is done. Crude dip between the 50 and the 62.5, and a little bounce off there. Other than that, there's no other great setups. We got cycles still at the top on the weekly, but at the bottom, at the bottom on the weekly, at the top on the daily, so mismatched cycles. The only thing that makes me bullish is a breakout still above the highs right here, 77, 75. There's no other great pattern just yet. That was a mess this afternoon. Gold, we were watching, and this is just a complete mess. I'm just watching the 1781 breakdown play. That's it for right now. If you're already long, it would just be a trailing stop area below here. Euro, we're finally getting the rollover play back to the rotation zone. I'm going to watch for a little more continued pullback with that potential dollar short-term bottom, about 105.50 area on the euro. The pound closed right at the bottom of or closed actually a bounce up, but the 200 and the rotation zone. So if we break down below there, I'm focusing more on the prior very key support area between 119.50 and 119.60 with the rising 50. Bitcoin, still waiting for the next blow up thing on here. Still closing back in. I'm actually watching for the break and then the break back down. Nothing really going on there. Tesla, continued lower. Coming in on the next cluster areas, 148. We have a cluster. And then the next level below that, for anybody interested, not expecting it to hit before year end, but it's just trailing lower, 129.28, and then the 107, 108 to about 112. Any bounce plays, would be back into just a daily rotation zone. It is oversold. It is trying to get to a bottom. So I will be watching for a bounce play. That's why it's just trailing at this point down from my perspective. What else do we have? Apple. Apple. You see here, hold on. See here. Look at this. Look at this. Lowest close. This is the lowest Apple close since back in June. So that is some technical damage from the Apple perspective. Closed below the lows at Wednesday, the 9th of November before CPI Thursday, which was the lowest close since June prior. So this did close down again. I will be watching for a retest of the 130 area. Okay, that's the next key area to the downside. Since this was technical, this is pretty major. Microsoft holding right at the 50 and completing the double. So the double is, what was a 243.56, 243.55. That's completed. Right there. So Microsoft's still in consolidation, completed the bearish thing, but it's interesting. This is a long way off still from the stop on this double bottom trigger, but this is starting to do some technical damage in Microsoft. I'm going to be really focused on if it can break down below 240.33 in the short term there. Amazon, the lowest close since the 9th, right before CPI Thursday, but no major technical damage done. I'm still watching for a close below this at 85 area, 86 area. Okay, that would be very bad from Amazon perspective. So you have Tesla lower, Amazon lower, Microsoft still holding a little up better, but Apple breaking down. Google. What we just happened today. We closed below 62.5. So I'm going to be watching for Google to retest the lows from the beginning of November. Any rally, I'm focused on a rollover in the rotation zone. Cycles are at the top on the daily and still heading down on the weekly. And you see the weekly for Google. Return to the weekly back in October. Sell-off. Return to the weekly. And we're rotating down clearly and back below the 200 week. So these mega caps are not looking so hot. Yeah, I agree. Something's going to happen with Binance, and it's not going to be something good. If you have any money in there, get it out. Although now you're in a waiting period from everybody I've talked to who's trying to get stuff out of there. There's now like, oh, we're going to halt your stuff for 12 to 24 hours pending reviews. But if anybody has anything on Binance, get it out. I'd recommend getting any crypto you want to hang on to into your own personal hardware wallet. Get it off of any exchange. I've said that before. So that's sort of your mega cap stuff, something we haven't looked at in a bit. After Netflix, come on. I haven't tuned in, put up Netflix in a while. But after it virtually filled the gap, look at this, the gap magnet. And this was a very nice sort of wedging pattern up. Little key sell-off. Watch for it to break below the 50, because you start breaking below that 50, we could easily reconnect with the 200. So there's monitor that for any stops. And look where that's prior gap that's still, we still have a little gap that wasn't fully filled right behind this line I drew. Technically, that's down at two set. Oh, sorry. The gap is down. Sorry, I was looking at the open. The close. See, I made that mistake. The 240.86. I'm actually going to be watching for that to fill sometime in January. Do I expect it to break below by 100 by end of this bear market? Yeah, I expect to be even lower than 100. Now we'll get bounce plays in there, and you'll get everybody saying, "See, this is the low, this is the low, this is the low." No, it's going lower. It's going lower. So I expect it well below 100. I told you Tesla's going to wipe out a lot of people. A lot of people before it's said and done. I remember all the people who said, I mean, we're trading now post split, but I mean, we're back down to 450 post or pre split. Look, I know a lot of people said it would not drop below 500. It's going lower. My next key target is this 108 to 112. And then longer term, I'm expecting it to reconnect with 62. Longer term. That would be probably more than 6 months from now. And Tesla officially closed well below its 200 again. When was the last time it was back below its 200 on the weekly? Wow. All the way back in October of 19. Huh. Interesting. All right. So we got a lot of interesting things that are poised to break down. NVIDIA, this is a very toppy tail coming in with NVIDIA on the weekly. The gap up outside the channel and then the collapse back in. I'm watching for NVIDIA to tackle its 50 again and then break back below it. We did reconnect with the 87.5. So we got the close above the 62.5 back at Friday the 11th. Took a little bit of time, but reconnected in that 87.5 to 100 zone and now reversing and back below the 200 on the daily. So NVIDIA, I'm also watching for lower prices. Now we can easily get a bounce as this heads down with cycles getting to the bottom, but I'm watching for a much more substantial pullback in NVIDIA again. A lot of these charts, I mean, NVIDIA is holding up a lot better than some other stuff, but a lot of things are still, they're starting to break. And look at this. I mean, come on. We're back to 72 P/E for NVIDIA. Not happening. Simply not happening. You have a great weekend too, John. All right. Just glancing around at things. Now we should get some lighter volume next week. Especially towards the end of next week. So keep that in mind too. Today's volume, which was the quad witching, was actually a little lower than I expected. But it's going to be interesting now to watch. Remember, we got to the bottom. Remember how on the down move we were having volume overall. The average volume on down days really exceeded the average volume on up days. And then it shifted. Okay, it shifted with this October bottoming area. We started getting the volume higher on up days than on down days. And still holding in, but the volume on down days is starting to edge up a little more. So I'm going to be watching on some up days if that starts tapering off and we get more down day volume coming in. That's another signal we could be getting some continuing downward pressure. With that, thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'm not going to keep anybody longer than need to be. And I will see everybody if I can jump on at some point later Sunday. It might be like a real quick 10 or 15 minute one. If not, I will see everybody on Monday morning. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great, fantastic weekend. Bye for now.